Oh, Ron. Can you believe it's been 20 years since the first Harry Potter movie came out?
Seeing that trailer with the words, "The magic begins," I have never felt so much anticipation in my life.
An all-new adventure was going to start. Well, technically, it was the same adventure with a bunch of parts left out, but you know what I mean.
To think kids nowadays have never lived in a world without the films. While I hate the thought of getting older, I feel truly blessed to be able to say I followed Harry Potter from the very beginning. That I was reading, well, my dad was reading it to me, back when there were no movies.
Really showing my age, which is young. I was there through the controversy, the criticism. It was crazy.
And had it been in the Old Testament, Harry Potter would have been put to death.
Glad I never came across that woman. So, in celebration, I'm going to watch the movie. I'm so excited. And then we're gonna see how it holds up 20 years later, even though I already know the answer. So swish and flick, this is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone! Or Philosopher's Stone, depending on where you live.
The movie was directed by Chris Columbus, which is an interesting choice. But several directors were at one point attached, including Steven Spielberg, because of course, Terry Gilliam, who was J.K. Rowling's first choice, Mike Newell, who ended up directing the fourth film, Tim Robbins, Rob Reiner, Ivan Reitman, and even M. Night Shyamalan.
Alright, plot twist! Voldemort dies when he gets wet! But there's another twist! Voldemort was Harry the whole time! Why didn't I ever get rid of these things?
J.K. Rowling only wanted English actors for the movies.
Well, excuse me for being American.
More bad news for Robin Williams and Rosie O'Donnell, who were interested in playing Hagrid and Mrs. Weasley, respectively. Though I'm not sure Rosie would have gotten that role regardless. A lot of the extras are American, though. Julianne Hough, anyone? Vern Troyer? There was also talk about making the movie CGI animated, but thank God that never happened. Now, as everybody, except for the casual moviegoer knows, the opening shot is always an important shot. You have to suck the audience in from the get-go. And right off the bat, we see an owl on a sign in the nighttime, and then the camera turns, and there he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Albus Dumbledore. And to top it all off, it's got that instantly iconic John Williams score, which I won't play because I don't want to get my bun sued. Nowadays, it's hard to even hear the words Harry Potter without Hedwig's theme playing. It's truly some of John Williams' best work. And that says a lot. That guy has created cinematic monsters. Jaws, E.T., Stepmom. If these first few seconds don't grab your attention, nothing will. I know owls are wise, but did this owl know that he's starting up such a monstrous phenomenon? I hope this owl got laid. The first chapter of the book gives you a deep description of the Dursleys, how they were perfectly ordinary and not magical. But we didn't need to see that. Now, let's talk about the greatest wizard of all time. Richard Harris, in my opinion, is the superior of the two actors to play Dumbledore. First of all, he looks older and therefore closer to what he's supposed to look like. Some people say he's too sweet compared to Michael Gambon, but that's what I like about him. He's cool, calm, and collective. Nothing scares him. Even when a troll gets into the school, he's like, I got this. McGonagall is the perfect cross between the teacher everyone was afraid of and the teacher that everyone wanted. And Hagrid is perfectly captured as the lovable oaf from the book. I always imagined him being bigger, but I understand that's just not practical without making him CG.
I have never enjoyed diving into someone's facial wounds so much in my life. And you'd be surprised.
And here we get the first look at Daniel Radcliffe. Harry totally changes as the series goes on, but I just love how innocent he is. He's just a curious kid who doesn't fit in, but you want him to. This is also the only movie where you can hear that childish voice in all of its glory.
1 minute the glass was there and then it was gone. It was like magic.
Puberty came way too quickly, and we all knew it would. The Dursleys, well, they are totally those characters you love to hate. I love watching them suffer. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy when Hagrid takes Harry away, but I could honestly watch them suffer for hours. Though, I'm not sure I'd be up for a Dursley torture porn spinoff. When we get to Diagon Alley, it's truly like the pages of the book are coming to life. And each scene gives me a different kind of thrill. Our first look at Diagon Alley, I'm like,
whoa!
When we see the goblins, I'm like, and seeing Harry go through the platform, I'm like, When you think about it, there's so many magical scenes being thrown at you in so little time. But I'm taking it and I'm loving it. Like, is that all you got? Now, on to school. Ron's never been my favorite character, but while in future films I just want to wrap my hands around his neck, I like him enough in the early films. I mean, I'd say he's the weak link of the three, but he serves a purpose, and you feel sorry for him. Poor Ron. Literally, poor Ron. Ron is poor. And of course, there's Hermione. Oh, Emma. She's so cute. Sorry, but that hair! Look at it! And look how tiny she is in this chair!
She's a know-it-all, she's obnoxious. I wouldn't change a thing. This is her wand, by the way.
Back when this movie was brand new, if you asked me who my favorite character was, I'd probably say Harry, but mean Hermione. If Harry's the ice cream, then Hermione's not only the cherry on top, she's also the whipped cream and any additional toppings. And Ron? He can be the bowl. When Ron hurts Hermione's feelings, I melted. But that might be because I was madly in love with her. True story. Back when all we had was the books, so many people didn't know how to pronounce Hermione. This one kid was all, "It's Hermione, it's Hermione." And I was like, "No, it's Hermione." And the teacher, because she was reading it, was like, "No, Bruce, it is Hermione." And I'm like, "No, it's not." And I got a warning. And when the movie came out the next year, I went back to her room after class. I'm like,
Every time I hear someone say the books are better than the movie, my response is, the books don't sell scores. I was right.
now I know that "You're a Wizard, Harry" scene, for many is like the defining moment of this movie. But for me, it's this scene.
It's like, that's the castle. This is where the magic happens. Ew, I didn't mean it like that.
Anyways, seeing that castle, seeing the kids' expressions, and hearing that music again, I'm like, what are we waiting for? Let's get in that castle, now, before we have a serious problem. Oh, but I'm sorry, is something more interesting happening next door?
God, who cast that girl?
Oh, that's the director's daughter? Well, no wonder.
It's true then.
You know how I said the Dursleys are those characters you love to hate? I feel like that's how I should feel about Draco, but it comes out the other way around. I hate to love him. He's just cool. I would want him to like me. Tom Felton hadn't read any of the books prior to auditioning, but he acted like he did. The casting directors saw right through this and gave him the part anyways. No wonder he got it. He's a snake, just like Draco, but we like him that way.
Scared, Potter.
You wish. Oh wait, no, that's the next movie.
Now, not every character here gets special treatment. In fact, there's one prominent character that got no treatment. Anyone who's read the books knows I'm talking about Peeves, a fan favorite. They even cast an actor to play him, the late Rick Mayhall, who seemed like a great choice. They released concept art, and wow, we missed out on something, I tell ya. It's said that Mayhall read his lines so over the top that the child actors couldn't stop laughing at him. But isn't that a good sign? Peeves is a joker, but Mayhall claims that's what ultimately led to his scenes being cut. He later said, with no respect at all, the movie was shit.
Wow. Rest in peace, asshole.
Still, is there lost footage of Peeves floating out there, or was it tossed in the fire like those letters to Harry? This isn't funny! I want answers! At least we got John Cleese as Nearly Headless Nick. I didn't know about Monty Python when I saw this movie, but now, that's pretty cool. The man goes from one legendary British franchise to another, better legendary British franchise. Whoa, the door opens! Oh my god! You know, I didn't notice this until recently, but the transition between Transfiguration class and Potions class is awfully abrupt. I know I said earlier that the film throws scenes at you all willy-nilly, but it doesn't really work here. Did they even attend class? The only thing we got out of this scene is now Harry and Ron know McGonagall can turn into a cat.
Knowing is half the battle.
Now, on to the Potions Master. Snape's arguably the best character in the franchise, according to several fans. But did people think that right off the bat, or was it his secret backstory revealed later on that made people fall in love with him? Honestly, Snape's never been one of my favorite characters. Not because he's a bad character, just because, well, there's a ton of characters. They say Alan Rickman was told the truth behind Snape in secrecy, so it's no wonder he nails it. But this definitely is not the film where he gets to shine the brightest. Or the darkest in his case. But that mystery he brings makes me want to find out more about him. Everyone I knew thought Snape would end up being the bad guy and dying at the end of the first book. But everyone I knew was 7. You know, the part was originally offered to Tim Roth, but he turned it down because he was doing Planet of the F***ing Apes. I know at this point it would seem weird seeing anyone else playing Snape, but way to miss an opportunity. I'd say F*** you, Tim Burton. But then Helena Bonham Carter may not have signed on for future films. This scene, I still have to sigh a little every time I watch it. Why would they just stand there screaming in the face of the monstrous dog instead of running for their lives as soon as they get a glimpse? It's like something a cartoon character would do. Then again, it was directed by the same guy who did Home Alone, and that movie is basically a live-action cartoon. I love how before joining his friends and screaming bloody murder, Harry's able to calmly deliver a line.
And for good reason.
Good reason or bad reason, run for your life!
The CGI in this movie doesn't quite hold up. Even in 2001, it looks subpar, considering it came out the same year as the first Lord of the Rings, and 2 years after The Matrix. I mean, look at Harry on the Troll, or Neville here. When it was brand new, it seemed like the one scene everyone was talking about was the Quidditch scene, how amazing it was. Now, well, it's still an enjoyable scene, don't get me wrong, it just looks like an episode of Jimmy Neutron. But I guess it could be worse. While we're being a bit critical, this movie has several mistakes that have been pointed out. You got the casual goofs, like here you see a crew member's feet as they close the door. But then you got mistakes that just make you wonder how they get left in, like Harry joining one side of the table and then ending up on the other side. Or Dudley's bangs changing in one cut. What's wrong with you, Chris Columbus? You can discover America, but you can't stop inconsistencies? But hey, we can always blame the goofs on magic.
There's no such thing as magic.
I feel like Neville's character is handled a little unfairly in this movie, which is a shame considering he's the reason Gryffindor ends up winning the House Cup. In the book, he's much more prominent. For example, in the movie, Hagrid gets the dragon, and then in the blink of an eye, it's gone. But in the book, Hagrid keeps it until it starts growing, and once he gets too big, they get Neville to help them sneak Norbert off to a new home. They get caught, but Ron manages to avoid getting in trouble, and Neville gets detention instead of Ron. They lose 50 points each for dragon smuggling, but since that was left out of the movie, they just lose 50 points each for going out after dark.
50
Each.
I mean, that seems harsh. I mean, even Muggle children sneak out of bed. For God's sakes, I've done it. Not that I'm a Muggle.
Harry Potter, you must leave.
And lose Gryffindor another 50 points? F you, Chiron, I'm staying in the forest with Voldemort.
Go down the trapdoor. Tonight.
Through the Trapdoor, it's one of the best chapters in any of the Harry Potter books. But does the movie do it any justice? In the book, there are a couple more obstacles they go through, and each one is specifically made by a certain teacher. They don't really address that in the movie. At least not very well.
Snape is one of the teachers protecting the stone.
There's pretty much no explanation, they're just going through random shit. For all we know, Dumbledore was high and was like, oh, like, we gotta make sure the stone is safe, so why don't we get, killer vines, flying keys, and, something else. Oh, I know, a giant chessboard, that'd be sweet. But the good thing is, it's just so entertaining, you don't really care. The whole thing about Harry ending up with the stone, I never got it as a kid. Looking back, Dumbledore clearly explains it, but let's just say it's not the most clever plot point. No matter what Dumbledore says.
That is one of my more brilliant ideas.
Objection!
Even the stone itself leaves me with questions. We know it can make the owner immortal, but they never say it can give a cursed soul a body of his own. But I can't find that book Hermione has at any library, so let's just assume it's in there somewhere. Harry meeting Voldemort, it's quite tame compared to their future encounters, but hey, only 4 books were out at that time, so we didn't know how dark it would get. And seeing that face as a kid, I was like, this right here? This is the ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny. I sure wish Harry's encounter with Voldemort wasn't just with his reflection. I mean, wouldn't Voldemort want to talk to Harry face to face? Stare into the eyes of the baby that lost him his body and know you're gonna finally finish him off? You're not just gonna look at him through a mirror. This scene, I just have to mention it. Even in the book, it's a head scratcher. Dumbledore pretty much tells everyone that Slytherin has won only to basically say, F you, Gryffindor wins. And the fact that he gives them just enough points to dethrone Slytherin is kind of an asshole move. I mean, they stopped Voldemort from returning. That probably deserves more than 170 points alone. Hell, they lost 150 points for merely sneaking out. That's just 20 points away from how much you just gave them. But as messed up as that is, as soon as I see Harry getting ready to leave Hogwarts, I forget all about it. I'm all smiles. I mean, I'm also all frowns because the movie's almost over, but what an ending! A child goes from misfit to total BAMF. A perfect way to end the first chapter in this journey of a lifetime that is the Harry Potter film series. So how does this movie hold up? Well, it's still fantastic. It's got a couple of moments, but being that it's the first one, the plot is one thing and just basking in the novelty of the magic is another thing. By the 4th movie, everybody's gonna go, oh, magic. Okay, we've seen that before. And the plot is still great. It perfectly sets you up for what's to come, which is sure to be more complex. Comparing Year 1's plot to Year 7's plot, it really shows how the series evolves from children's media to, well, more traumatic children's media. Year 1, the plot revolves around just one item. Year 7, it revolves around several items, and I'm not sure my tiny child brain could handle all that stuff. When I saw this movie for the first time, I didn't even think about there being a single sequel because I loved this one so much. Part of me wonders what a different director would do, but another part of me doesn't even want to think about a different director because I'm so satisfied with what we got. Harry Potter amounts to every kid at the time wondering, what if I'm special? What if I'm not what I seem? And that's the great thing about being a kid and why I hate that that part of my life is long gone. I'm so glad I read the book before I saw the movie because I was on the edge of my seat. I know that ball's gonna spread wings. I know that book's gonna scream. And good thing too, because I'd piss myself. So I'm just gonna end this thing by saying the imperfections don't hurt the experience of rewatching it over and over again. And that's good, because it's safe to say I've done that. Anyways, thanks for listening, and I'm off to Harry Potter World!